Prepare to dive into a story where every second counts, where creativity meets chaos, and a team's resilience is pushed to its breaking point. Wired for Resilience takes you behind the scenes of a world few ever witness. A high-stakes production team navigating unpredictable challenges, technical disasters, and the ticking clock of a live event. Meet a cast of determined professionals who must rely on their ingenuity, teamwork, and unshakable will to deliver the impossible. Join us on this pulse-pounding journey of tension, triumph, and unexpected moments of humanity. If you're ready for an emotional ride that keeps you on the edge of your seat, don't miss out. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more gripping tales that will leave you inspired. How does that sound? It's engaging, right? Let me know if you'd like to refine or adjust the tone. Chapter 1. The stage is set in the heart of Sao Paulo. Within the towering walls of a bustling convention center, the stage crew of Aurora Productions were in the middle of orchestrating yet another corporate event for an international client. The clock on the wall showed 3:45 p.m., and the team was well ahead of schedule, an impressive feat considering the complexity of the job. The event was a high-profile product launch for an innovative tech company, and every detail had to be flawless. The sprawling space buzzed with activity. Massive LED screens loomed at the center of the stage, flanked by towering light rigs on either side. Miles of cables snaked across the floor, connecting sound mixers, video processors, and backup systems. On the mezzanine level, a makeshift control room housed monitors and laptops where the team would manage video feeds and ensure the live stream reached viewers worldwide. The team of 5 principal crew members operated like a well-oiled machine. Lucas, the head technician, was a meticulous problem solver with a talent for remaining calm under pressure. Maria, the lighting designer, had an artistic streak and was known for her perfectionism. Rafael, the sound engineer, brought an easygoing demeanor and a knack for improvisation. Aline, the project manager, was the glue holding the operation together, juggling timelines and keeping everyone focused. And then there was João, the youngest of the team, eager to prove himself but prone to overthinking. As Lucas calibrated the LED screens, he paused to glance over at Aline. "We're running ahead. Maybe we'll even finish early this time," he said with a rare smile. Aline chuckled as she scanned her checklist. "Don't jinx it, Lucas. We've still got the live feed to test." Rafael strolled by, holding a stack of XLR cables. "Relax, team. We've got this. When have we ever messed up?" Maria rolled her eyes, adjusting the positioning of a spotlight. "You mean besides the gala in Rio? Or that concert in Berlin?" "Those were learning experiences," Rafael replied with a grin. As the banter continued, João hovered near the control panel, rechecking the video feed setup. He hesitated before speaking. "Hey, does this alignment look right to you, Lucas?" Lucas walked over and scrutinized João's work. "Not bad. Just tweak the horizontal axis by a notch. Remember, precision matters." João nodded, his face lighting up with relief. "Got it." Just as Lucas returned to his station, a commotion erupted near the back of the room. A cleaning crew from the venue had arrived to mop the floors. One of the workers, a middle-aged man in a green uniform, pushed a cart loaded with supplies toward the stage area. "Careful with the cables," Aline called out, her tone sharp but professional. The cleaner nodded, appearing slightly flustered. He maneuvered around the equipment with caution. For a moment, all seemed fine until it wasn't. The faint sound of liquid splashing filled the air. All heads turned toward the source of the sound. A puddle of soapy water spread across the floor, dangerously close to the main power unit. The cleaner froze in place, wide-eyed and apologetic. "Oh no," Rafael muttered, dropping the cables he was holding. "Kill the power?" Lucas shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Maria darted to the nearest breaker box and flipped the switch. The room plunged into semi-darkness as the screens, lights, and sound equipment powered down. The once buzzing atmosphere was now eerily silent except for the hum of backup systems. "Are you kidding me?" Aline groaned, rubbing her temples. She turned to the cleaner, her expression a mix of frustration and restraint. Please get someone to clean this up immediately and keep clear of the stage. Lucas crouched near the power unit, inspecting the extent of the damage. João joined him, his face pale. Is it bad? João asked hesitantly. Lucas didn't answer right away. After a tense moment, he exhaled and looked up. The main system is soaked. We'll need to reroute everything through the backups. This is going to take time. Rafael knelt beside them, shaking his head. The backups can handle it, but the signal might not be as stable, and we'll have to recalibrate the entire soundboard. Maria crossed her arms, her frustration evident. So much for finishing early. How long will it take? An hour minimum, Lucas replied. He glanced at Aline. Let the client know. We'll do our best to keep the delay under control. Aline nodded, her mind already racing through contingency plans. She approached the client's representative, a sharply dressed woman named Elena, who stood near the entrance with an air of authority. Elena listened intently as Aline explained the situation, her expression unreadable. When Aline finished, Elena simply said, "Do whatever it takes to fix this. The show must go on." Back at the stage, Lucas assigned tasks with military precision. Maria, recalibrate the lights. Rafael, focus on the audio channels. João, assist me with the rerouting. As the team worked against the clock, the tension in the room was palpable. Yet there was also an unspoken understanding among them, a shared determination to overcome the crisis. By the time the system was fully operational again, an hour had passed. The delay was significant, but the client seemed satisfied with the team's swift response. As the event began, the audience remained unaware of the chaos that had unfolded behind the scenes. But the day wasn't over. The team knew the real challenge was still ahead, ensuring that everything ran smoothly for the remainder of the event. And as they took their places, a lingering question remained: what else could possibly go wrong? Chapter 2, Ripples of Trouble. The clock ticked past the original start time for the event, and though the audience waited patiently in the hall, the weight of the delay pressed heavily on the team. Backstage, the air was thick with tension and determination. The Aurora Productions crew couldn't afford another misstep. Lucas stood at the center of the staging area, issuing commands like a battle-hardened general. His sharp eyes darted between screens, cables, and crew members. Maria, check the uplighting on the main stage. I don't want any shadows on the product display. João, recheck every connection from the secondary power unit. We can't rely entirely on the backups. João moved quickly, clutching a checklist like it was a lifeline. He muttered to himself, mentally running through each step Lucas had taught him. His eagerness to prove his worth had only grown stronger after the earlier chaos. Meanwhile, Aline was in constant communication with Elena, the client representative. Despite her polished exterior, Aline felt her stress bubbling beneath the surface. The client is already on edge, Aline whispered to Rafael as they stood by the soundboard. One more hiccup, and this could cost us our reputation. Rafael offered a reassuring grin, though even he felt the strain of the situation. Relax, Aline. We've dealt with worse. Remember the outdoor festival in London? Half the rig collapsed in a windstorm, and we still pulled it off. I hope your confidence is contagious, Aline replied, half smiling. As Maria adjusted the last of the stage lights, she paused to glance at the audience through a gap in the curtains. The hall was filled with journalists, investors, and tech enthusiasts, their anticipation palpable. She turned to Lucas. The lighting is set, but if the client adds any last-minute effects, we're going to need more time. Lucas nodded without looking up. Let's hope they don't. Just then, João's voice broke the rhythm of the room. Lucas, I think there's an issue with the secondary power unit. The voltage isn't stable. Lucas's head snapped up. Show me. Together, they crouched by the panel, where João nervously pointed out the flickering indicators. Lucas frowned, his fingers flying over the controls as he tried to pinpoint the problem. It's the surge protector. It's not handling the load properly. If this fails, we lose the live feed entirely. Aline hurried over. catching the last part of Lucas's explanation. "We can't let that happen. What do we need to fix it?" Lucas hesitated, his mind racing. "We need a replacement surge protector. There might be a spare in the van." Aline turned to João. "Run to the van and find it. Now." João bolted for the exit, his heart pounding. The van was parked 2 blocks away in a chaotic loading zone filled with delivery trucks and event staff. As he weaved through the crowd, João replayed the situation in his mind, determined not to mess up. Back in the convention hall, the rest of the team worked tirelessly to stabilize the system as best they could. Rafael fine-tuned the soundboard, compensating for the flickering power. Maria double-checked the lighting cues, ensuring they were prepared for any last-minute changes. And Lucas moved between stations, troubleshooting and directing with laser focus. When João finally returned, sweat dripping from his brow, he held the spare surge protector like a trophy. "Got it," he exclaimed, breathless. Lucas wasted no time, expertly swapping out the faulty component. The indicators on the panel stabilized, and the backup systems hummed steadily once more. João let out a sigh of relief, but Lucas remained stone-faced. "Good work, João, but we're not out of the woods yet." As the team regrouped, Aline received a message on her headset. The client was requesting a quick rehearsal of the opening sequence, just a test to ensure everything was in place. Aline relayed the request to the crew, her tone firm. "We've got 10 minutes to make this perfect. Let's move." The rehearsal began, and for a moment, everything seemed to go smoothly. The lights danced across the stage in perfect harmony, the sound boomed with clarity, and the LED screens displayed sharp, vibrant visuals. But just as the rehearsal ended, a new problem arose. "Lucas, we're getting interference on the live feed," Rafael called out, his voice tinged with urgency. Lucas rushed to the control room, where Rafael pointed at the monitor. The feed displayed a faint but noticeable static. "It's not the cables," Rafael said. "It might be a signal issue." "Of course it's a signal issue," Lucas muttered, rubbing his temples. "Check the frequency settings. We need to isolate the source of the interference." As Rafael worked to resolve the problem, the rest of the team held their breath. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, Rafael's face lit up. "Got it. The signal's clear." Aline exhaled deeply, her hands trembling slightly. She turned to the team, her voice steady despite the chaos. "All right, everyone. The audience is ready. Let's show them what we're made of." As the lights dimmed and the opening sequence began, the crew watched from the wings, their nerves stretched taut. The show was underway, but the challenges of the day had left their mark. Little did they know, the true test of their resilience was yet to come. Chapter 3, Falling Dominoes. As the first keynote speaker took the stage, a wave of relief swept over the team backstage. For the time being, the equipment was running smoothly, and the audience remained blissfully unaware of the earlier turmoil. However, the crew knew better than to relax. With a day like this, they expected challenges to come in waves. Lucas watched the live feed on one of the monitors in the control room, his sharp eyes scanning for any potential disruptions. The high-definition video streamed flawlessly to viewers around the globe. The client had spared no expense on this production, which made the stakes even higher. João stood nearby, nervously shifting his weight from one foot to the other. After his earlier triumph in retrieving the surge protector, his confidence had grown slightly, but not enough to stop him from imagining worst-case scenarios. He broke the silence with a question. "Lucas, do you think we'll get through the rest of the day without any more problems?" Lucas didn't look away from the monitor. "João, in this line of work, the only thing you can count on is that something will always go wrong. The key is being ready to fix it." João nodded, though the answer did little to calm his nerves. Meanwhile, Aline stood near the edge of the stage, communicating quietly with Elena over her headset. The two women had developed a mutual respect over the course of the day, but Aline could sense that Elena was still apprehensive. The event's reputation, and by extension Aurora Productions, was hanging by a thread. Maria, stationed at the lighting board, adjusted the brightness levels for the next segment. She glanced over at Rafael, who was fine-tuning the audio for an upcoming musical performance. She said casually, "For a guy who's always so relaxed, you seem pretty tense right now." Rafael laughed dryly. "Tense? Me? No way. I'm just hyper-focused, like a Zen master." He paused, then added with a grin, "But if one more thing goes wrong today, I might lose it." Maria smirked but said nothing. She felt the same way. The keynote speaker wrapped up their presentation, and the audience erupted into polite applause. A smooth transition to the next segment was critical. As the lights dimmed, Maria activated a subtle blue wash across the stage, creating a serene ambience. Lucas checked the cue sheet and signaled to João, "Bring up the intro video for segment 2. On my mark." João's fingers hovered over the controls. "Ready? 3, 2, 1, go." The LED screens flickered to life, displaying a stunning animated video that introduced the next speaker. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. Halfway through the video, the central screen glitched, showing a series of distorted images before going black. "What the?" Lucas shot out of his seat. "João, what happened?" I don't know." João stammered, his face pale. "It just stopped working." Aline rushed over, her voice sharp. "Can we fix it?" Lucas was already at the main console, his hands flying across the keyboard. "It's a hardware issue. The central panel's connection must have come loose." He turned to João. "Grab the spare HDMI cable from the toolbox. Now." João sprinted to the storage area, his heart pounding. He rummaged through the toolbox, finally locating the cable. He raced back to Lucas, who was already halfway under the console, inspecting the connections. The seconds stretched into what felt like hours as Lucas and João worked to resolve the issue. Aline kept one eye on the stage, where the audience was beginning to murmur. Maria and Rafael exchanged worried glances, but remained focused on their stations. Finally, Lucas emerged from under the console, a triumphant look on his face. "Got it, João. Plug in the cable and reboot the system." João did as instructed, his hands trembling slightly. As the system rebooted, the central screen came back to life, displaying the video in perfect clarity. The audience, unaware of the technical hiccup, continued to watch intently. Lucas exhaled deeply, wiping his forehead. Crisis averted. For now. João managed a weak smile. "Sorry about that. I should have double-checked the connections earlier." Lucas patted him on the shoulder. "Mistakes happen. What matters is how you handle them. You did good." The brief moment of calm was interrupted by a voice crackling through Aline's headset. It was Elena. "Aline, we have an issue. The client wants to make a last-minute addition to the program, a live Q&A session with the CEO. Can you accommodate that?" Aline's stomach dropped. Adding a live Q&A on such short notice was a logistical nightmare. But she knew there was only one acceptable answer. "Of course, we'll make it work." She turned to the team, her voice firm. "Listen up. We've got a live Q&A coming up after the next segment. Rafael, make sure we have enough handheld mics ready. Maria, adjust the lighting for the audience area. Lucas, double-check the live feed settings. João, prep the backup equipment just in case." As the team sprang into action, the tension in the room escalated once more. They had managed to overcome every obstacle so far, but the day wasn't over yet, and with each passing minute, the stakes grew higher. The show had to go on. Chapter 4, The Ticking Clock. The air backstage was heavy with tension, like a taut string ready to snap. Though the event was now in full swing, the new challenge of orchestrating a live Q&A loomed large. The team worked with synchronized urgency, each member keenly aware of how thin their margins for error had become. Lucas, ever the problem solver, inspected the live feed setup with surgical focus. He double-checked the bandwidth on the streaming equipment, ensuring there was no risk of interference during the session. The last thing they needed was a glitch cutting off the CEO mid-sentence. "Rafael," Lucas called over his shoulder, "run a quick sound check on the wireless mics. We can't afford even a hint of static." Rafael was already ahead of him, his seasoned hands delicately tweaking the audio controls. On it, all 4 mics are active. No interference so far. Let's just hope it stays that way. Meanwhile, Maria adjusted the lighting to create a warm, inviting atmosphere for the Q&A. She set up an additional spotlight to highlight the CEO and ensure the audience area was well lit for visibility. As she worked, her mind drifted to the feedback she'd often received about her perfectionism. Some saw it as a flaw, but today, she knew it was her strength. Aline, Maria called out, "Lighting for the Q&A is ready. But if they change the stage setup last minute, I'll need at least 5 minutes to readjust." Aline gave a terse nod, jotting a note on her clipboard. She seemed calm on the outside, but her internal monologue was a storm of worries. The stakes of this event had grown exponentially with the addition of the Q&A, and the client's expectations were sky high. Still, Aline was determined to steer the ship to safety. She turned to João, who was setting up a backup monitor near the edge of the stage. "João, once you're done there, double-check the HDMI connections for the audience cameras. I don't want any surprises." João gave her a quick thumbs up, grateful for the clear instructions. Though his confidence had wavered earlier in the day, he felt a renewed sense of purpose now. Each small task he completed successfully was a step toward proving himself to the team and to himself. As the team finalized their preparations, Aline received another message through her headset. It was Elena, the client representative, with yet another update. "Aline, the CEO wants to open the Q&A with a live demo of the new product. Can your team set it up in time?" Aline's stomach tightened. A live demo meant additional equipment, setup, and coordination, all on an impossibly tight schedule. But she didn't let her voice betray her anxiety. "We'll handle it," she replied, her tone resolute. She turned to Lucas. "New plan. The CEO wants to start the Q&A with a live demo. Can we integrate it without disrupting the flow?" Lucas frowned, calculating the logistics in his head. "It's doable, but barely. We'll need to reroute one of the auxiliary video feeds to display the demo on the screens. João, you're with me. Maria, get an additional spotlight on the demo area. Rafael, monitor the audio levels closely. We can't risk feedback." The crew moved like clockwork, their individual tasks converging into a seamless operation. João followed Lucas to the auxiliary console, where they worked side by side to reroute the video feed. João's hands trembled slightly as he plugged in the necessary cables, but Lucas gave him a reassuring nod. "You're doing fine. Just stay focused." Maria adjusted the spotlight, muttering to herself as she fine-tuned the angle. "If this CEO decides to change anything else, I'm charging them for my therapy bills," she quipped, earning a chuckle from Rafael. In the control room, Aline coordinated with Elena to ensure the demo's timing aligned perfectly with the Q&A, though the stress threatened to overwhelm her. Aline found solace in the unwavering determination of her team. They had faced so many obstacles already, yet here they were, still fighting, still pushing forward. As the countdown to the Q&A began, the crew took their positions, their adrenaline fueling their focus. The CEO stepped onto the stage, greeted by a round of applause from the audience. The demo equipment was in place, the lights were perfect, and the audio was crystal clear. For a brief moment, it seemed as though they had conquered every challenge. But just as the demo began, a new issue arose. The secondary camera feed, which was supposed to capture close-ups of the product, flickered briefly before going dark. Lucas's heart sank. "Camera 2 is down," he reported through the headset. Switching to backup, João, who had been monitoring the camera feeds, felt a wave of panic. He turned to Lucas, his voice trembling. "Should I check the connections?" "Too risky," Lucas replied. "If you fiddle with it now, we might lose the main feed too. Focus on the backup." The team held their breath as Lucas rerouted the backup feed. The transition was seamless, and the audience remained unaware of the near disaster. João let out a sigh of relief, wiping his brow. That was close. The Q&A proceeded without further incident, the CEO handling questions with poise and charisma. Backstage, The team exchanged subtle glances of triumph. They had faced setback after setback, yet they had delivered under pressure. As the session concluded and the audience erupted into applause, Aline turned to the crew, her voice filled with gratitude. "We did it. No matter what else happens today, remember this moment. You're the best team I could ask for." But as they began to pack up their stations, a nagging question lingered in Lucas's mind. If today had tested them this much already, what would the final act bring? Chapter 5, Under Pressure. As the afternoon sun began to dip below the horizon, the convention center buzzed with anticipation for the event's climactic finale. A sleek stage transformation was underway, transitioning the space into a dazzling showcase for the company's flagship product reveal. But while the audience lounged in the comfort of their seats, admiring the ambient music and stage aesthetics behind the curtains, the Aurora Productions team faced their most demanding challenge yet. Backstage, Aline reviewed the production schedule one final time, the weight of responsibility etched into her every movement. The evening's lineup included a live performance by a well-known band, synchronized with a stunning light show and multimedia presentation on the LED screens. Everything needed to be perfect. The stakes had never been higher, and the team was running on fumes after a day of relentless setbacks. Lucas gathered the crew for a quick briefing near the control room. His tone was firm but encouraging. "All right, everyone, this is it, the big moment. Rafael, I need the sound levels for the band spot on. Maria, make sure those spotlights don't wash out the LED visuals. João, triple-check the connections for the LED wall. If one panel glitches, the whole thing falls apart." João nodded, earnestly, clutching his toolkit like it was his lifeline. "I've got it, Lucas. I won't let anything slip this time." Maria shot João a supportive smile as she adjusted the focus on a lighting rig. "Relax, João. We've got your back." Nearby, Rafael fiddled with a soundboard, his usual grin replaced by a rare look of concentration. "Anyone else feel like we're defusing a bomb instead of running a show?" he muttered, half joking. The tension backstage was palpable. As the final minutes before the reveal ticked away, Aline received a message on her headset from Elena. The client wanted to add a last-second adjustment. A dramatic blackout before the band took the stage with a synchronized buildup of sound and visuals. Aline's heart sank. The additional cue was ambitious and carried a high risk of mistiming, but refusing wasn't an option. "Lucas," Aline called out, pulling him aside. "The client wants a blackout sequence with synchronized effects before the band starts. Can we pull it off?" Lucas frowned, the wheels in his mind turning rapidly. "It's risky, but not impossible. We'll need to reprogram the lighting cues and adjust the sound fade-out. Maria, Rafael, can you handle it?" Maria raised an eyebrow, already calculating the adjustments in her head. "I'll need 5 minutes." Rafael groaned but nodded. "Fine, but if the blackout and buildup aren't flawless, don't blame me." Aline turned to João, and João monitored the LED system closely during the blackout. "If there's any hiccup, switch to the backup immediately." João swallowed hard but nodded. "Understood." The countdown to the final segment began, and the team moved with laser-sharp focus, every second feeling like a lifetime. Maria reprogrammed the blackout lighting cues with precision, while Rafael tested the audio fade-out and build-up. Lucas oversaw every detail, his presence a calming force amid the chaos. When the stage lights dimmed to near total darkness, the audience erupted into a murmur of anticipation. Backstage, Maria's fingers hovered over the lighting console, ready to execute the synchronized build-up. Rafael adjusted the sound levels, creating a low, pulsating beat that grew steadily louder. Just as the build-up reached its crescendo, disaster struck. One of the LED panels flickered, threatening to disrupt the seamless visual display. João's heart raced as he spotted the malfunction. Without waiting for Lucas's instructions, he activated the backup system. The flickering panel was replaced instantly with a flawless image, and the audience remained oblivious to the near disaster. Lucas glanced at João and gave him a rare nod of approval. "Good save." The blackout transitioned seamlessly into a dazzling explosion of light and sound as the band took the stage. The audience roared with applause, the energy in the room electric. Backstage, the Aurora Productions team exchanged relieved smiles and fist bumps. They had pulled it off, but as Aline watched the crowd's reaction, a nagging feeling lingered in her mind. The day had tested them beyond their limits, and while they had triumphed so far, she couldn't shake the sense that the biggest challenge was still ahead. Chapter 6, The Breaking Point. The band's final song reverberated through the convention hall, the cheers of the audience blending seamlessly with the soaring crescendo of the music. For a brief, fleeting moment, everything seemed to fall into place. Backstage, the Aurora Productions team allowed themselves a collective exhale, their earlier tension replaced by a cautious optimism. But just as the house lights dimmed to signal the transition to the grand product reveal, the crowning moment of the event, an unsettling sound cut through the air backstage. A sharp electrical pop echoed from the far end of the hall, and then the unthinkable happened. The LED screens flickered and went dark. Lucas was the first to react, his expression grim as he sprinted toward the control panel. "What just happened?" he barked, his voice sharp and commanding. João, who had been monitoring the backup systems, frantically scanned the diagnostics on his tablet. It's the central power relay. It must have shorted out. The screens aren't getting power." Aline, who had been coordinating the final cues with Elena, froze mid-sentence as the implications sank in. The LED screens were integral to the product reveal. Without them, the visual impact of the entire finale would be lost. She turned to Lucas, her voice steady despite the rising panic. "Can we reroute power from the backups?" Lucas shook his head, already assessing the situation. "Not quickly enough. The main relay needs to be replaced, and we don't have a spare. We're going to have to improvise." Aline's mind raced as she considered their options. Time was slipping away, and the audience wouldn't wait forever. She looked at her team, their faces reflecting the same mix of exhaustion and determination she felt. "Okay," she said, her voice resolute. "We're not giving up. Maria, can we use the stage lighting to create a dynamic visual effect in place of the LED screens?" Maria hesitated, her perfectionist instincts warring with the urgency of the moment. "It won't be the same, but yes, I can use the moving lights to create patterns and motion. It might even add a sense of theatricality." "Do it," Aline said without hesitation. "Rafael, can you sync the audio cues to match the lighting?" Rafael nodded, already adjusting the soundboard. "Consider done." "And João," Aline continued, turning to the youngest member of the team, "we need you to monitor the lighting and audio systems closely. If anything glitches, I want you ready to jump in." João swallowed hard but gave a determined nod. "I'm on it." As Maria and Rafael worked at breakneck speed to implement the new plan, Lucas remained at the control panel, doing everything in his power to stabilize the remaining systems. The tension in the room was palpable, but there was also a shared resolve among the crew. They weren't just colleagues, they were a team, and they were determined to see this through together. On stage, the host of the event addressed the audience, filling the unexpected pause with a light-hearted anecdote. The crowd laughed politely, unaware of the chaos unfolding behind the scenes. Finally, Maria signaled that the new lighting design was ready, and Rafael gave a thumbs up from the soundboard. Aline took a deep breath and gave the cue to the host to proceed with the reveal. As the stage lights dimmed, a hush fell over the audience. Then, with a dramatic swell of music, the lights burst to life in a breathtaking display of color and motion. The synchronized beams danced across the stage, creating an ethereal atmosphere that captivated the crowd. The product, illuminated by a spotlight, seemed to shimmer with an almost magical glow. Backstage, the Aurora Productions team watched with bated breath. The improvised solution was risky, but as the audience erupted into applause, they knew they had pulled it off. Lucas turned to João, a rare smile breaking across his usually stoic face. "Good job, kid. You've earned your spot on this team." João beamed with pride. the weight of the day's challenges finally lifting from his shoulders. As the applause continued, Aline allowed herself a moment to reflect. They had faced setback after setback, each one seemingly insurmountable. But through it all, they had persevered. And though the event wasn't over yet, she knew that they had already proven something important, not just to the client, but to themselves. But as the team exchanged relieved smiles, a single thought lingered in the back of Aline's mind. The day had pushed them to their limits. Could they handle one more twist? Chapter 7, the final crescendo. As the applause for the product reveal reverberated through the convention hall, the Aurora Productions team finally allowed themselves a moment to breathe. The lighting effects had dazzled the audience, and the improvised solution had exceeded expectations. Yet, amidst the fleeting wave of relief, an unshakable tension lingered. This was the home stretch, the final act of the event, and the pressure was palpable. Backstage, Aline surveyed her team, her sharp instincts picking up on their exhaustion. Lucas's usually calm demeanor seemed strained as he double-checked the power connections. Maria's shoulders were tight, her fingers gripping the lighting board with white-knuckled precision. Rafael wore a rare frown as he tested the microphones for the evening's closing remarks. Even João, whose earlier confidence boost had been evident, now moved with a quiet intensity, triple-checking the backup systems without being asked. "All right, everyone," Aline said, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. "We're almost there. One more push, and we can call this a win." Lucas glanced up from the console. "What's the final sequence again?" "The CEO's closing speech," Aline replied, scanning her clipboard. "It needs to be flawless. Lights focused, sound sharp, live feed uninterrupted. No room for error." Maria exhaled sharply, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Let's hope the client doesn't throw in another last-minute addition." As if on cue, Aline's headset crackled with Elena's voice. "Aline, the CEO wants to include an unscheduled guest, a key investor, to join them on stage for the final remarks. Can your team accommodate this?" Aline clenched her jaw, willing herself to remain calm. "Of course," she replied evenly, though her mind raced. Turning to the team, she relayed the news. "New plan. There's going to be a guest joining the CEO on stage. Maria, adjust the spotlight for 2 speakers. Rafael, make sure there's a second microphone set up and synced. Lucas, ensure the live feed can handle the additional close-up." The team sprang into action with practiced efficiency, their earlier fatigue pushed aside by sheer determination. João shadowed Lucas at the console, assisting with the adjustments. Though his hands trembled slightly, he moved with purpose, his earlier hesitation replaced by a quiet resolve. On stage, the host introduced the CEO, who strode confidently into the spotlight to thunderous applause. The Aurora Productions crew held their collective breath as the first few minutes of the speech unfolded flawlessly. The investor, a distinguished older gentleman, joined the CEO on stage midway through, and the transition was seamless. Backstage, Lucas monitored the live feed, his sharp eyes scanning for any anomalies. Everything seemed stable, until it wasn't. Just as the investor began speaking, the audio feed crackled with interference. "Rafael, what's going on?" Lucas barked, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. Rafael's fingers flew over the soundboard as he hunted for the source of the interference. "It's the second microphone. The signal's picking up static." Aline's heart sank. The static was faint but noticeable, and every second it persisted felt like an eternity. "Can we switch to a backup mic?" she asked, her voice tight with urgency. Rafael shook his head, not without disrupting the live feed. João, who had been monitoring the diagnostics, spoke up. "What if we adjust the frequency on the fly? It might clear the interference without needing to switch mics." Lucas hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding. "Do it, but be quick." João's hands moved with surprising steadiness as he adjusted the settings on the audio panel. The static faded, and the investor's voice came through loud and clear. The audience remained unaware of the brief hiccup. Lucas gave João an approving nod. "Good call." As the speech continued, the team stayed on high alert, their focus unbroken. The CEO wrapped up with a heartfelt closing statement, and the investors' remarks added a touch of gravitas that left the audience visibly moved. When the final applause erupted, it was deafening. Backstage, the Aurora Productions team exchanged weary but triumphant smiles. They had done it. Against all odds and countless setbacks, they had delivered an unforgettable event. As the house lights came up and the audience began to disperse, Aline gathered her team. "I know today was one of the hardest we've ever faced," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But you rose to every challenge, and you proved why we're the best in the business. I'm proud of all of you." The team basked in the moment, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. For Lucas, Maria, Rafael, João, and Aline, this day would be a reminder of their resilience and the unshakable bond they shared. But even as the crew began to pack up their equipment, one final question lingered in Aline's mind. Was this the most challenging day they'd ever face, or just a glimpse of what they were truly capable of? Chapter 8, The Curtain Falls. As the last of the audience members filtered out of the convention hall and the echoes of applause faded into memory, the Aurora Productions team began the arduous process of dismantling the stage. The adrenaline that had fueled them throughout the day had finally ebbed, leaving behind a palpable exhaustion. Yet, amidst the weariness, there was a quiet sense of accomplishment that hung in the air. Lucas meticulously packed away the equipment, his movements methodical even after hours of relentless troubleshooting. Beside him, João coiled cables and stowed them in their designated cases. Though his body ached and his hands were raw from the day's work, João's heart was light. For the first time, he felt like a valued member of the team. "You did good today, João," Lucas said gruffly, breaking the silence. "You stepped up when it counted." João glanced up, surprised by the rare praise. "Thanks, Lucas. I couldn't have done it without all of you." Maria, perched atop a ladder as she disassembled a lighting rig, chimed in, "Don't sell yourself short, João. You saved our skins more than once today." From the soundboard, Rafael let out a theatrical sigh. All right, let's not inflate his ego too much. He's already standing taller than he did this morning." The group laughed, the tension that had defined their day dissolving into camaraderie. Even Aline, who had been reviewing the final client notes on her clipboard, allowed herself a rare moment of levity. If we're handing out compliments, let's not forget Lucas's miracle work with the backup systems, and Maria's artistry with the lighting, and Rafael's ability to keep us laughing. "I have many talents," Rafael said with a mock bow, earning another round of laughter. As the team continued packing up, Elena approached from the far end of the stage. The client representative's usually sharp expression was softened by what could only be described as genuine gratitude. "I just wanted to say thank you," she began, addressing Aline and the rest of the crew. "Today wasn't easy, and we threw a lot at you, but you handled everything with professionalism and creativity." The client was thrilled. Aline straightened, the words lifting a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying. "Thank you, Elena. It means a lot to hear that." Elena nodded and extended her hand. "Aurora Productions has earned my respect and my recommendation. I'll be sure to spread the word." After Elena departed, the team exchanged glances, a collective sigh of relief washing over them. They had not only survived the day, they had triumphed. As the last piece of equipment was loaded into the van and the convention hall's lights dimmed for the night, the crew gathered near the loading dock. The night air was cool and refreshing, a welcome contrast to the intensity of the day. "What a day," Maria said, leaning against the van. "I'm not sure if I want to sleep for a week or celebrate until sunrise." "Why not both?" Rafael suggested with a grin. "Sleep first, party later." João chuckled. "I think I'll stick to sleep, but thanks, all of you, for helping me out today. I learned a lot." "You've earned your place here, João," Aline said, her voice warm. "We're a team. We get through the tough days together." Lucas, ever the pragmatist, checked his watch. "All right, let's wrap this up. We've got another event next week, and we need to be ready." The team groaned in unison, but smiled nonetheless. As they climbed into the van, The sense of accomplishment lingered. They had faced a gauntlet of challenges and emerged stronger, their bond fortified by the trials of the day. As the van pulled away from the convention center, João glanced out the window at the now empty venue. He thought about everything he had experienced, the stress, the mistakes, the triumphs, and felt a spark of excitement for the future. He was no longer just a new guy. He was part of something bigger, something meaningful. And as the team drove off into the night, the city lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of color, one thing was certain. No matter what challenges lay ahead, Aurora Productions would face them together.